like your computer's immune to beatboxing?
Yeah, no, here it is. It's a setting on the Zoom meeting, actually.
Oh,
here, hold on. Allow.
There's
beatbox.
a setting for beatboxing.
Yeah. There, I think I got it. Did that work?
Yes, that worked.
Oh, okay, great. I think we got it.
So if I turn off the setting right here.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm beatboxing.
Yeah, nothing. Wow. That's so weird that they built that in.
Okay, now I'm going to turn it on.
Okay.
Greetings, citizens of Earth. I'm Dan.
And I'm Erik.
Welcome to Accelerativ Thrust, where we discuss and review underground, conventional, and experimental music with a focus on the Iowa and Midwest Zoom beatboxing scene.
Right.
So I learned something interesting about our bros in Metallica.
Oh, snap.
Or
What
actually one person in Metallica, the Lars Ulrich guy.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I know him. Yeah.
I was randomly, for some reason, bored the other day, and I decided to look up Metallica's favorite food. I just wanted to know what Metallica ate for some reason. I don't know why it popped into my head.
I would guess blackened chicken.
Blackened chicken.
Woo!
So
All right.
the first thing it showed was a link that showed it was probably an Instagram photo or something of James Hetfield getting ready to eat his pre-show meal, which was a giant pork chop and a green salad.
Okay.
Sounds pretty tasty, right? The
pre-show meal makes me think he's like still trying to mow it down as he walks to the stage.
Yeah, he's like
he just has salad in his teeth.
Yeah. Freaking in between his teeth, he's got the pork chops and everything.
Yeah.
Like he's flossing. But then the most interesting one was Lars Ulrich eats about 20 pancakes a day. Yeah, like that was his favorite. Okay, but all right, so it wasn't
pancake batter.
Well, there's a perfectly logical explanation for this, I'm sure. No, actually, there is actually a explanation for this. It turns out that Lars Ulrich is quite the runner. He runs every day.
Oh, carbo loading.
Time to carbo load.
Yeah.
Carbo loading. However, the pancakes he actually eats are very thin, apparently, and they're made of egg whites, oats, and something else. I don't remember what it was.
Oh.
Yeah. So he eats like 20 of these egg white omelets.
I get it.
Basically, they're omelets that are pancakes.
Yeah.
Like sort
That's
of thing.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually want to hate on Lars because everyone should.
Yeah.
But
there's no excuse not to.
Yeah. But I actually make pancakes using oats and almond milk. And those are the only ingredients. And they're blended. Really? Yeah. And you
does it actually like create like a batter sort of thing?
Oh, and a banana. Sorry. A banana.
Oh, okay. The banana. All right.
So
Gotcha.
you blend that in the blender and that becomes your pancake batter. And it's really, really good and not, as bad for you as real pancakes.
Sure.
And, so I'm on the same page as Lars on this one. And that may be the only time that has or will ever happen again. I hope.
Yeah, that maybe. I don't know. Did you sue Napster in the 90s?
No, I sued LimeWire. No.
Oh, LimeWire. Oh, yeah. Wow. I forgot about LimeWire always reminded me of, it sounded to me more like a drink. Like it should have been a soda, like Vault or Surge or all those like weird late 90s drinks.
I would drink the shit out of LimeWire.
So would I. It sounds delicious, doesn't it?
Yeah. Hey, Coca-Cola.
Yeah. If you're listening, make the LimeWire. They just came out with a new lemon lime soda called Starry, I believe.
Oh, yeah. I like the artwork on it. It's really, really kind of like ravey or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it really kind of, and you know what it reminds me of, actually? It reminds me of all those late 90s drinks, because there was like a weird design graphic design element to a lot of those. Like I remember they were really styling everything. Like Cherry Coke had that weird one where it was like this red, black. It kind of looked like the artwork, like Frank Miller or something, kinda. Or I can't describe it. I don't know, like New Yorker type art or something. And then there was Fruitopia. You remember that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, Fruitopia.
And
that's about as 90s as it gets right there.
It is, yeah. And then there was that Snapple's Elements. You remember those things?
Yeah, I really like the orange one. Is that fire? It was like dragon fruit or something. I don't remember. Fire
was red. It was.
Oh, okay. I like the orange one.
The orange was the sun.
Wow.
And then there was rainwater, which they said it was cactus water.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember.
And then there. Well, what's the other element? The moon.
The moon. I like it. Yeah. Earth, wind, fire, and moon.
Yeah. That's like, how come that wasn't in the Captain Planet theme song? Like, that doesn't make no sense.
I don't even remember that song, but it would have been better if they mentioned the moon. Every song would be better if you mentioned the moon. There's no way around that.
Every single one. Captain Planet. He's a hero. You don't remember that?
No.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you were just not watching cartoons by the time, because that was kind of. I remember like it was. I don't know. That was like early '90s, probably like 1990 or something.
I think I just hated the environment.
You were just like, I don't want to save the world.
Yeah. I was like, I like my superheroes to destroy shit, not fix it.
That actually is a very understandable and relatable idea. Like, I want my superheroes to destroy shit.
Yeah. If there's a city left after a superhero battle, something is not right. That's
I always thought that was hilarious how literally every episode of the Ninja Turtles was always like some big robot or some flying thing with wheels would land in the middle of the city, and the cities would, get picked up by some gravity machine. And then, like, I don't know, freaking April O'Neil would find some way to fix it or something. And then
with science,
the gravity machine would stop. Then all the buildings would fall perfectly back in place.
And all the people were fine and grateful.
Yeah, all the people were fine. And the city was like, back together the next episode. Like, New York was fine in the 90s.
You know what's funny though is like we're kind of picking this apart, saying that this aspect of it is unbelievable, while there's actually mutated turtles fighting. There's some other unbelievable elements to it as well.
Well, I mean, yes, but the mutated rat, though, you can't deny.
No, that
all
happens.
Mutated rats throughout history.
That is an actual thing.
It's an actual thing.
The Mutated Rats. Pretty good band name.
That is a great band name.
If anyone wants it, go ahead and take it.
Please don't take it, because I want to use it.
No, it's freebie.
Shoot. Well, you can pay me for it.
Okay, you know what? The race is on.
Yeah.
Here it is. You start a band called the Mutated Rats and beat Dan putting out a single.
Yes.
That's a challenge to the listeners.
That's not much of a challenge, because you're going to do it. I guarantee it. You've already won. Yeah. What else is going on in pop culture from the 90s?
What's going on now?
In the 90s. Because, the 90s still exists, just some other timeline, We all know that. It's proof.
Oh, like all times are happening at the same moment?
Yeah, they're all happening right now. There's
right. That's a given.
Trust the science,
Yeah, no one can deny that.
Yeah, no one can
disprove that.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about science, is it can't disprove anything.
That's very true. And
I can believe whatever I want. Science can't do shit about it.
Yeah. and you can't have faith in science either. Like, you don't pray to science,
I've started to. I don't think it's having much effect, but
Yeah.
That's all right.
Sure. Did you find anything interesting in the news, or?
No, not really.
Yeah, I mean, Metallica and Smashing Pumpkins are both coming out with new albums next year. Or not next year, excuse me, next month in April. That's the only thing I know. And Metallica's 72 Seasons, and Smashing Pumpkins is a triple album. We're talking a lot about music here, almost as if we have a podcast that talks about music.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and we got a lot of music that we specifically want to cover today.
Yeah.
And that's in the form of 3 records, of course, 1 local from the Midwest, and then also we got a single.
Noise.
So
come on, everybody, it's record time.
This, my pick for this week is brought to you by Enemy Chuck. Of course, if you don't know who Enemy Chuck is, all you have to do is go back and listen to some other episodes. But real quick, Enemy Chuck is the enemy of the show.
And humanity as a whole.
Yes.
Basically like the adversary, the Antichrist, right? Is that what they call him?
Yeah, they call him the Antichrist. They call him the devil, all kinds of things. Bad stuff, this guy.
But he goes by El Diablos.
El Diablos. Anyway, but Chuck, even though he's our enemy, does have good taste in music sometimes.
Yeah, true.
And so he did recommend this. It is from a group called the Young Fathers. The name of the record is Heavy Heavy, and they are a Scottish group who have been around since 2008. And I think this is phenomenal. I really enjoyed this record from beginning to end almost instantly. So this was actually released only at the beginning of February. So it's only a month old. And so this is really, really new. I don't have a lot of words to describe it because I actually think Erik is probably going to have some better descriptions about what this is than me, because I feel like Erik is a lot more well-versed in sort of Afrobeat stuff like that. Maybe some reggae. Anyway, I don't know. I'm very curious what Erik's take is here. But anyway, I think this was really, really fantastic. The thing I will say about it is I think it's uplifting and very fun to listen to. And it is very percussive, soulful, very catchy, and just I thought it was a joy to listen to. Anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I will admit I'm not a big connoisseur on this kind of stuff. I like it when I hear it, but I would consider this having Afrobeat elements as well as funk, soul, R&B. There's definitely a huge hip hop element, and even some like indie rock elements. The songs are really short and I feel like very easy to listen to, and in a very good way. And I would even dare to say that some of this is poppy in its own way, but it was very easy and fun to listen to without being cheesy, without being, I mean, there definitely were elements of it that I would say were a little challenging and experimental, but it kind of seems like this would be a pretty good gateway into it. It's definitely, I would say, got some reggae elements to it. There were times where there was kind of this crossover between like sort of spoken word rapping that, I don't know, someone like Saul Williams kind of comes to mind a little bit. But then there was also definitely some R&B style vocals, which the best comparison I could think of there would be like Prince, as odd as that may sound. Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't really have much more to say. It's very kind of tribal, worldly. Like the percussion elements are very amazing. There's definitely a bunch of stringed instruments kind of going on, and some synthesizers are kind of thrown in there. Chuck compared them to kind of a less artsy TV on the radio. That comparison is definitely valid. I would say there's some elements of stuff like Animal Collective, some of the later Talking Heads stuff. What I've heard of Fela Kuti, also like there's the rap element. It really reminds me of this rapper named Mock Hami, who was actually on the Bug record that we reviewed a while back, I believe. Also the Bug, there definitely was some elements of that kind of reminded me of that. But then also, like, I also would say another fair comparison would be like Tyler, the Creator's Igor, the record that we reviewed a while back as well. Brockhampton, and I would say even like a little bit of something like Al Green at times. There definitely was that soulful kind of funk element, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it was just a really, really fun, interesting listen. So yeah, I'm very glad that Chuck recommended this to us, even though he is our enemy. But I'm glad to start off my listening experience of releases in 2023 with a record like this. So yeah, what did you think, Eric?
Yeah, I hate to admit it because Chuck suggested it, but it was great. I really had a really good time listening to it, and it's kind of rare for something to be this sort of upbeat feeling, but also have an energy and an edge to it, that keeps it from being kind of cheesy or saccharine or whatever. Like, it never feels that way at all, but it is super upbeat. I agree with a lot of the things you said, for sure. These guys are from Edinburgh,
yes,
Scotland. The thing I picked up, I had to look that up because the thing that I felt at the beginning was when it started, I was like, oh, this has like a New Orleans bump to it, and that sort of permeates through the whole thing, and so that's really cool. So yeah, it has this. Percussion is at the forefront, or at least the percussive element. Everything kind of moves. It's upbeat and like always moving. And there's really no lulls. If there is any break from just the overwhelming movement of the whole thing, it really seems like it's only to make it more impactful when it comes back. The vocals are layered for the most part. They do a lot of different things. You can tell they'd spent a lot of time thinking about what the vocals were doing at all times. It's never phoned in or whatever. It's not always layered. Sometimes there's solo vocal performances, but even at that point, there's still usually something underneath it happening. And they are really wild at times. There is sort of that hip hop element to it in a weird way. And the thing is, like, I would not say this is hip hop music. Like, there might be elements of it in this music, but to me, it doesn't operate the same way, and it doesn't feel the same way. But there are a lot of similarities and a lot of, especially in the construction, But yeah, it's very difficult to put this into a category. Like I've already said, it's super fun, but it's also distorted and aggressive feeling at moments. Not aggressive like they are being aggro, but just has a edge to it, a distorted, overblown, heavy edge to it sometimes, but not all the time. It feels mostly sample based to me, but I have no proof of that. But also super loose and interesting and fun. And I can't say fun any more than I have. But yeah, the things that you mentioned, very much so. TV on the radio, 100%. And I'm not saying it's derivative by any means. I'm just saying they share a lot of similarities. But yeah, like you said, Animal Collective, I had Yaysayer. Like, it has that indie epicness to it at times. Sure. As far as the rhythms go, I had Bow Wow Wow, that kind of bump. The Eno Burn record. And that Exuma, the Obeah Man, I don't remember if you remember when we reviewed that. It's been a long time ago.
Yep, that was one of our first reviews.
Yeah, some of the rhythms on that for sure. And then as far as the construction of the whole thing, it actually did sort of remind me of Soul Coughing, because like it is using samples a lot, but they're not stuck there. It has a movement, and they play within the confines of that sort of sample-based kind of stuff. But yeah, this is so stupid.
Very stupid.
But at the end of the day, what this reminded me of was there was a song called Land of a Million Drums. It was on the Scooby-Doo soundtrack, and it was by Outkast. So
That's
It's really cool. It's a cool song. And
is that on the Scooby-Doo movie soundtrack?
Yeah, like the first one, I think.
The first one, okay.
So like after Hey Ya came out. So like, whatever year that was. I don't know.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
It's a cool song, but yeah, that's just kind of it's kind of a joke, but at the same time, I've always really appreciated the groove of that song. And
sure,
I don't think Young Fathers are probably that influenced by the Outkast Scooby-Doo song, but if you like it, check this record.
Well, I mean, you do never know. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they might be inspired by Outkast or something. You know what I mean? Like,
who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, you never know. But you did solidify something. I'm gonna have to check out some more Bow Wow Wow. After you,
yeah, I can't say enough about Bow Wow Wow. They're super cool, and everyone should check them out. But regardless, everyone should check out this Young Fathers record too, because it really was surprisingly fun and upbeat and super just good. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. So
yeah, it blew my mind. All right, well, I'm glad you liked that selection.
Yeah, it was cool.
I definitely will be listening to it again for sure.
For sure. Yeah. So my pick for this week is by a group called 72 Hour Post Fight. And the album is called Non-Background Music. Came out 2022. They're from Italy. And I think that kind of tells you something about the music. Like, it has a kind of like Italian spy feel to it at times. And I don't know, that's just kind of a weird observation. But yeah, so what 72 Hour Post Fight seems to be to me is pretty straight saxophone and drum driven normal jazz music. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's made strange through the production and sound design and just the way that the songs are constructed and how they move. It makes it really interesting. And it's interesting also that it's called non-background music, because I would say that's probably a tongue-in-cheek sort of deal, because it is perfect background music.
Yeah.
It is, at first glance, super mellow. All right. The production keeps it interesting, and it's never boring. And they're sort of like long pieces that are just seriously chill music. It brought to mind like 90s trip hop stuff, but also some moody kind of chill Twin Peaks vibes as well. All kinds of different music I feel you could hear in this. And I would say if you're a fan of jazz, if you're a fan of trip hop, if you're a fan of just like chill music that you can, do other things too or whatever that don't require tons of listening, but every once in a while you go, oh shit, that was cool, or oh wow, that sound is cool. Like it captures your attention periodically. I don't think you have to just set and close your eyes and listen on headphones for this. You can, and I'm sure it'd be a really nice experience. If you're a fan of the things I'm about to mention, I really think you should give it a shot. And if it doesn't work for you, then whatever. But so David Lynch and Angelo Badalamenti, the Twin Peaks kind of feel, it's totally there. I don't think it's quite as dark at times, but it's there. Roni Size and Represent was kind of a big kind of breakbeat drum and bass trip hop record in the late 90s, I guess, probably. It reminded me of that a bit. There's a lot of brain dance stuff that happens, at least in the production. So like Aphex Twin. There's a bit of like Boren and Der Club of Gore, which if anyone listens to this show and doesn't listen to that and likes chill, kind of dark Twin Peaksy, not quite post-rock, you should check them out big time. Some of the saxophone remind me of Tuxedo Moon, and some of the just mood and progressions reminded me of the Black Heart Procession. So it's moody and it's atmospheric and it's really good. And if you're a fan of, like I said, jazz, saxophone, and or drumming, this is going to be really cool for you. Yeah, I don't know. I would say to anyone listening, like, take a chance on something that maybe isn't pushing all the boundaries. You know, you might enjoy just having something on that's really good. So what do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I honestly don't really have much more to add to the conversation with this. That I will say this right off the bat. This is really out of my wheelhouse. I really liked it, but I'm really unfamiliar with a lot of this kind of stuff. I've only really heard like a very small percentage of this kind of stuff, but I would definitely say that I heard a very huge trip hop vibe, kind of definitely loungy, or as you put it, chill vibes.
Yeah.
Chill jazz. This was straight up chill music. And I would 100% agree with you. And I don't think this is a bad thing at all. This is 100% background music to me. Like you said, Eric, I do think that it was kind of a tongue in cheek. It had to be, because I think if you're making this kind of music, there's no way that you can't at least acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to view it that way. But I don't think that's a bad thing, because like you said, and I'm going to basically repeat a lot of the things that you said, Eric, because I think you nailed it, and, you know, very, very well. It's just not something that you're going to put on in like the car, like a car ride or something, or maybe it is actually, if your thing is background music, but like maybe that was a really poor example. But you're not going to put this on, like, you know, and dance around, and it definitely, like you said, it's got the chill vibes to it, you know. Sometimes that's just what you really need, you know. Sometimes you don't need to, you know, and you've already pretty much said this, Eric, you don't need to go all out. Yeah, I can't really say much more than that. The stuff that this reminded me of, I agree with everything that you said, Eric, I've only really heard bits and pieces of these types of bands, but Tortoise came to mind. Mouse on Mars came to mind. A little bit of Air maybe, but also I would say too, some of the Mike Patton stuff, like Lovage.
Yeah. Sure.
I would also say like some of the stuff that was on the Peeping Tom record, because this definitely has that sort of breakbeat, soft jazz element to it for sure. I personally think that there was one track that was mostly guitar, and that kind of stood out in like one of the most awesome ways. I thought I really, really enjoyed that track. I forgive me, but I can't think of the title of the song.
Made of Clay?
Yeah, Made of Clay. That's it. That's the one. And oh man, that was just killer. That was cool, such a cool song. And I kind of feel like it almost gave the listener kind of a break from the breakbeat jazz element that was going on. Yeah. And so when that kind of element is introduced, then I could almost see like sort of a I don't know, Don Cabarello feel to it or something, you know, because there was guitars on this thing, you know, but it just kind of that's the one song that I think the guitars were really the centerpiece. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. Like I said, this is pretty much out of my wheelhouse. I don't listen to this kind of stuff on a regular basis, but you know, if I'm in a mood, I could definitely see myself listening to this. Like, I don't know, like if I'm cooking or, you know, or this is going to I'm going to totally, because I thought about this more. If I'm on a road trip and I want to relax, this would be the perfect thing to listen to. Right. So I don't know where I was going with that.
No, I'm glad you brought up the car thing, because just last night I was driving at night and I was listening to it, and it actually worked really well. It had sort of a taxi driver feel to it, you know? Yeah. Which I love that score. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah.
It had sort of that cool night driving vibe to it.
Yep. Yeah. And like I said, I agree with you pretty much 100% on this. And when I hear this kind of stuff, there's usually like, I don't know, like I've listened to some Mouse on Mars, and I've listened to some, and whenever I see descriptions of them, I'm kind of like, oh, well, that sounds really interesting. And for the first two songs, I'm like, man, I need to start making music like this, you know, because it's such a soundscape, and and it is very cinematic too.
Yeah.
Like the one group that I really, and I know this is one of your favorite groups that I mentioned, that I would really say that at least the album Moon Safari by Air, I thought was brilliant. That was such a brilliant record. But
totally,
that's where my knowledge of this, and even like trip hop or whatever you want to call it, even like something like Aphex Twin, which I know is more, that's a little quite a bit more intense, but like
sometimes
sometimes, exactly. But my knowledge is very limited, but I do like this when I hear it, and I think this was a really good album.
Cool. So
now we're going on to the local pick from Iowa City's own Dryad. I will tell you that they are a friend of the show, unlike Chuck. We actually had Dryad on for an interview, and we reviewed their previous album that came out. Oh, geez, that was probably 5 years ago now or something, wasn't it? Not the review, but the album came out 5 years ago. And this is amazing. I think this is proof that Dryad just keeps getting better and better at what they're doing and what they're going for. I think this is the proper meeting ground of old school necro style black metal, like Dark Throne or maybe early Mayhem, or even, I don't know, Emperor before they became like a sort of cinematic band or whatever. And I know I'm only throwing out like kind of the more well-known early black metal bands, but that's kind of what I'm familiar with that genre. But it's the meeting ground of that kind of stuff, because at the heart of this record, I do think it's pretty much a black metal record, but there's a lot more going on. So it's the meeting ground of that in my mind, and John Carpenter synth, cinematic horror movie music. But there's also a lot of other things, some really great instrumental interludes that I think really connect the album together very well. I think the synth element is definitely even more pronounced than on the other release that we reviewed, which I know, talking to Claire, that definitely seems to be kind of a goal that Dryad were kind of going for, and I think they really accomplished that on this release. I mean, there's some straight up like what I would call dungeon synth instrumentals on here, like great ambient type stuff, again going back to like the John Carpenter sort of pieces. And I will say this, I'm comparing it to the John Carpenter stuff because I mean that's kind of the only thing that I know when it comes to like instrumental synth, like right off of my head. The vocals sound cold as hell. This entire record, when they get heavy, is just so intense, almost scary sounding. I mean, it really has that grit and that straight up, just like, I have no other way to describe it than just like really icy cold, just really aggressive black metal. And it's not just black metal. There's, all of the stuff that Dryad is clearly influenced by. You got black death and thrash elements as well. I would say there's definitely a huge crossover appeal here too. Yeah, I mean, it's just a straight up no bullshit metal release at the end of the day. And it's dark as hell. And I really dig what they were doing with this record. I think this is amazing. I would say that if you like, the John Carpenter stuff that I keep mentioning over and over again, dungeon synth stuff, Blood Incantation, some of it reminded me of that. Again, Dark Throne, that Krallis record that we reviewed, some elements of that, although I would say it's not as, I guess, sci-fi as the Krallis record. Then again, it kind of was at the same time. Like, It's just, it feels to me like they went in, the idea is to meld everything that they're into, and it just kind of came out full force, if that makes any sense. I love this record. I don't know. I don't have much more to say other than I'm blown away. What do you think, Erik?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I found it to be just outrageously brutal and heavy, totally black metal, but I also think it's a little crustier than that. I think that it's a little less rigid than that. I think the riffs move and change, and I think we even talked about that a little when we had them on. It's just like things are free to morph into other things with Dryad, and I think that's really cool, and I think that it comes through that way. It doesn't feel like they're locked into a certain or a specific thing, you know. Claire and Cal's dual vocals are almost shockingly intense. Like, seriously, they feel like urgent and tortured, you know, like Lingua and Ignata that we reviewed. Like, how those vocals just feel like someone actually
going through pain.
Right.
Like,
and this has a similar element, you know, and then just having that brutal sort of guttural dry lung aspect underneath of that a lot of the time too, just adds to that intensity. This is all going to sound pretty much like what you talked about, because they accomplished everything so well and to such a degree that the takeaways are going to be pretty overt, you know, like you're hearing exactly what they wanted you to hear. And I mean, that's how it feels to me. And so, yeah, the synth element of it, it permeates throughout. If you listen closely, there's a synth running through a lot of this record. And like you said, they're into this. So like Oliver has a dungeon synth project called Precious. Claire has one called Mystic Cross. It obviously is a huge part of what they do. It adds to the epicness of everything. And it makes the sound, it fills it out and makes it so dense that it almost feels impenetrable. Like there's not a frequency that's not filled. You know what I mean? It's just like an onslaught of sound. It's really cool. But yeah, I love the dungeon synth piece, Hadel, and the song Chimera Monstrosa has almost a synthwave element, like you said, like John Carpenter.
Yes.
And so that I feel adds to the atmosphere. It adds to the sound. It diversifies the sound a little bit, which sometimes I think you need when things are this intense, you know, and this heavy. But yeah, I thought it was really just great. I thought it was amazing. But yeah, my experience with black metal is pretty limited. So these are gonna also be pretty surface level stuff that I would say reminded me of, but like Emperor, Satyricon, Demu, Borgir, or whatever, however you say it. I'm sure I've said it wrong, but
I think you're saying it right, actually.
Things like that, you know, black metal with synth. Yeah, I don't know. I think it is really cool, and I think Dryad are just basically killing it.
Yeah, I also want to say, I don't know if I actually said the name of the record in my review. So the name of the record, and I apologize, maybe I did say it, but I kind of don't think I did. But the name of the record is The Abyssal Plain. The other thing that I want to say is it's been so long since I've seen Dryad perform live, and I'm sure they probably mentioned it in the interview, but I totally forgot that Cal also does vocals in the band too, as well as Claire. So that, I think, added to the intensity of the whole thing.
For sure.
Yeah, I was really blown away. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify that just in case I didn't, and you can edit that out if I did say the album title, but just in case.
Sure. Yeah, we should mention album titles, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So a newer thing we've been doing recently is having a single of the week, and I gotta say, it presents sort of a interesting conundrum, because at what point is it a single and at what point is it an EP, you know?
Right.
And that's something we're just going to have to navigate, because I don't know for sure.
Sure.
But my pick for the single of the week is by a group called MSPAINT, no spaces, all capital. Title of it is called Titan of Hope. It has 3 songs on it. So, you know, like I said, I think that is dangerously close to an EP. Like one more song, and I would say, no, that's not a single anymore. So, whatever. But it's 3 songs. They're similar in their own ways, but they also do a lot of different things. I don't remember. I think someone I follow on Instagram posted about seeing them somewhere, and I literally don't know who it was or whatever. I'm just saying, I don't know how I found out about this. That's what I'm trying to say. But it's a tough one to describe. It's noise rock, through and through. I think if you're a fan of Jesus Lizard, you're going to get this pretty instantly. But the weird thing is, it's like, this is also electronic music, and not necessarily like the Locust, which is, you have hardcore plus synthesizer. Like, this is really rooted in the electronics. And so it creates this sort of strange situation, and the push pull of that makes it really interesting and exciting to hear. The elements all work amazingly well together. It's aggressive, yet it's uplifting. There's heavy guitars, kind of angular, distorted things happening with the guitars, but then there's like epic synth lines happening too, and they don't really get in each other's way. I guess I'm talking about sounds, because I don't know who does what in the band, but the sounds don't get in each other's ways. And I think it's a combination of real drums and drum machine. I don't know that for sure, but that's how it feels. It's super cool and enjoyable. I can't wait to hear more from them. And I'm just going to list off some things that reminded me of, and you guys can figure out if that sounds like something that makes any sense and you might be into. But vocally, Unsane, Jesus Lizard, Soul Glow, maybe to an extent, and also musically and vocally a bit like Saul Williams. But then the electronic side of that, like Six Finger Satellite, Trans Am, in its presentation and how it's made, I guess Brainiac would maybe be something I would mention. But yeah, it's basically like, if you ever wanted to hear Trans Am with the singer from Unsane over it, this is pretty much it. So, which I didn't even know that was something I wanted to hear, but it is, and I'm glad I did. So what do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I have a slightly different, but also at the same time very similar take that you have on MS Paint. And I was kind of trying to figure out if it was like MS Paint, like, are they referencing Microsoft Paint?
Yeah, I think so.
Or is it Miss Paint?
No, like, I would guess.
Yeah, I would guess it's MS Paint.
Because MS Paint is still the best graphic design program.
Right. But yeah, straight up, this is what I would call synthcore. I mean, it's hardcore with a synth. To confirm, it is a combination of a real drummer and a drum machine. And I know this because I was so interested in what the hell is going on with this band after you showed this to me, like, a couple hours ago, that I was like, I went to YouTube and I was like, I got to see what the live setup is, if there is any. And sure enough, it's a bass player, drummer, synth player, and a singer. So it's actually a 4-piece band. It's this blend of industrial, digital hardcore punk, and that's straight up, like, I can't think of a better way to describe it than synthcore. Now, in my opinion, the singer's voice reminded me of like sort of Youth Crew vocals mixed with d.i.y. So that was close to what and the singer from Unsane, I could actually see that as well. I think that his vocals were cleaner than the singer from Unsane's, though, because like d.i.y. did use distortion on his vocals sometimes, but not all the time. It seemed to me like the singer from Unsane insisted on distorted vocals all the time, which was what was great about them, honestly. But I also think that there's sort of a youth crew element. This is going to sound kind of weird, maybe to you, Eric, but I would say like Jeffrey from Modern Life is War is kind of somewhat, and even though Modern Life is War is not a youth crew band, the vocals kind of reminded me of that, and maybe a little bit of like I can't think of any like maybe Civ, Civ from Gorilla Biscuits.
Okay.
Stuff like that. And even Ian MacKaye. Actually, quite a bit of Ian MacKaye, to be honest. His vocals reminded me of that quite a bit. Again, yeah, if you I'm basically just repeating some of the stuff that Erik said, but if that sounds appealing to you, this is your album. As far as who this reminded me of, I agree with Jesus Lizard. I agree with Unsane. I would also say Soul Glow to a certain extent, especially when Soul Glow does their kind of more hip hop oriented stuff, even though this is not really hip hop oriented, but Soul Glow does they sort of dabble in some electronic hip hop influence stuff. And when they do that, this definitely reminds me of that. I would also say the Armed and Turnstile would not be too far off the map. Kill Altars, some of the stuff reminded me of that. And then, on the electronic side, I would say definitely Six Finger Satellite, Men's Recovery Project. Big Black, mostly because of the drum machine element for sure, but also because I could also hear a little bit of Steve Albini in the singer's voice too. But yeah, this is great. I can't wait to hear more because I think there's a lot that can be done with this this sort of thing. And while this has kind of been done in the past in a lot of different ways, I don't think it's quite been done the way that we're hearing it here. So I think that's really cool. So there is an element of the familiar, but there's also an element of maybe some new ideas and how to approach this. So I don't know. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I really liked it. I think it's cool. And if you are the one that posted about seeing MS Paint on Instagram, go ahead and message us.
Absolutely.
I'll give you credit. Somehow.
I wonder where they're from.
They're from Mississippi.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing some more stuff. Boy, this was an interesting set of reviews that we had going on.
If you can't find something to like in this episode, I don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe just give up on music.
Yeah, give up on music. I mean, I already have, apparently.
Yeah, I gave up on music until this episode.
Until this episode.
I was
then I'm like,
oh man, music's really something.
I think that was the intent, right? We were just like, you know what? We've given up. Now let's start up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of really good stuff.
Yeah.
So we did learn about Metallica's favorite food. That was good.
Yeah, I realized that I didn't disagree with Lars about something, which kind of breaks my heart. Makes me it makes me kind of wonder if it's really worth it to go on. But I'll find something. I'll find something to keep me going.
I mean, yeah, and it has to be on the day that you started up music again.
Right.
You
take the good, you take the bad, you take them both.
You were just fine continuing on, giving up, and here you go.
And
then this has to happen.
Man, it's like a goddamn emotional roller coaster, this podcast.
Yeah, it really is. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But those mostly downs. That's how it is. Did you like going on roller coasters when you were a kid?
I still like it. And this is going to sound like I'm trying to be interesting, and I'm not. Because I hate when people try to be interesting. But I actually, it's one of the times in my life I'm most relaxed. Like I usually just close my eyes and just chill. It's so relaxing.
Wow.
I don't know. It's really weird. I think it's because the second they lock you in and you're going up the first hill or whatever, I don't know what they're called. I don't know roller coaster nomenclature, apparently.
I think hill is probably.
Yeah, you're going up the hill, and right at the top, you honestly have no control over anything in the world anymore.
Right.
And it's that loss of, or no, more like relinquishing of control. Like that is really, it's a really calming thing for me to just realize there's nothing I can do. There's not a single thing I can change about this situation. And so I just like let it go, like getting frozen, you know?
Yeah. That's, wow.
Wait, is there a frozen roller coaster? Shit.
Yeah.
I would zen out so
Would not
hard.
be surprised. Yeah, I don't know, man. I wish that I could say the same thing, but the truth is, I'm a huge wuss when it comes to roller coasters. You know what I did like though? I was a huge fan of like the log flume ride. I like water rides. If there's water involved, then I feel safe.
But isn't that sort of like just a roller coaster with a pool at the end?
Pretty much. I mean, except that you don't go like upside down or anything.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you remember like the Chicago Loop?
Like a Great River Days?
Yeah, like a Great River Day. Yeah. You remember that?
Yeah. Uh-huh. It's like you go upside down and then you just hang there for
you hang there
8
for
or
like
9 minutes.
Yeah, well, there was somebody. There was one time where it malfunctioned, and they were left hanging there for like a half an hour or something.
That would be pretty scary.
Pretty scary.
It would be very scary, and that's why. That's honestly more than anything. That's why I can't get on like super extreme roller coasters, because if that happened, that just gives me anxiety thinking about it. But if the log flume would have malfunctioned, I would have been just fine.
Right, that's true.
Like, I don't know why. Like, because a lot of people are afraid of water. You know.
Yeah. So did everyone on the Chicago Loop just like start barfing? Because that'd be pretty cool.
It happened while
on Great River Days. BTW, Great River Days, is a festival in our hometown of Muscatine that I think is now defunct, if I'm not wrong.
It's been
it's like a concert series or something.
It's been taken down by the man.
Yeah, the man.
But
I really liked it.
Yeah, I don't know. That it was a good time. I remember there was always a bunch of food vendors serving the crappiest food, but yet so delicious.
Yeah, it was filthy, dirty, crappy food. You could get cool Twisted Sister mirrors if you popped a balloon. There was always a threat of gang violence.
That's what I was gonna say. I was trying to think of
It never actually happened, just like everything in Muscatine.
I was trying. They
always tried to scare us.
I was trying to think of a memory. I kind of got lost. And you totally reminded me of that. I remember there was this there was a fight that happened, and then a rumor broke out that somebody had a knife. And everybody flipped
from Chicago.
They're like, a knife? What's a knife doing out?
Well, somebody won it at that game where you drop the quarter in or the coin in and it lands and hopefully pushes enough coins out or whatever. I always got really cool knives from that.
I remember the mirrors that you were talking about. I remember the Iron Maiden ones, the Guns N' Roses ones. Yeah.
Man, what a dream.
It was
what a white trash glam rock fucking Switchblade dream.
Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening.
I'm very glad you did. Instagram, Facebook, you know where to find us. We're called Accelerativ Thrust. And thanks for listening. I hope that y'all find something that you like from what we reviewed. Like Erik said, if you don't, then you don't know what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, get it together, bud.
Get it together. All right. See y'all later. Bye.
Every song would be better if you mentioned the moon. There's no way around that.
Every single one.